Hugh, if I understand your position correctly about the new heavens and new earth, new laws of physics, but I've heard some Christians suggest that the support for their view that heaven will be a restored Eden is passages like Isaiah 11, for example, where it says, the wolf will lie down with the lamb, and the child will play by the hole of the cobra. And these passages, what do we do with those?
Well, I mean, even in this room, we have different positions on that. My particular position is that this is a temporal state where for a brief period of time, God runs an experiment. Well, I would kind of put it along the lines of what took place in the days before the flood. In the days before the flood, we lived a long time, lifespans approaching 1,000 years. What it talks about there in Isaiah, and it's not just that passage, Isaiah 64 and 65 deal with it as well, is that once again, people are going to live a long time. That a man will have been considered to have died at a very youthful age if he only lives to 200. So it's like we're going to see a restoration of these long lifespans. But that tells me it's not the new creation, because there's an obvious implication there that death will still take place, just that we're going to live a lot longer. And yes, there will be the lion lying down with the lamb, but the new creation is going to be superior to that again. My own take on this is that what God sets up for a brief period of time, from God's perspective at least, is a situation on this earth where he removes all of our human excuses for sinning. Some people think it's carnivorous activity that's responsible for all the bad things that happen on planet Earth, or a few of the bad things. So God says, if that's your belief, I'll take away the carnivorous activity. Don't live long enough, I'm going to take away that excuse too. You're going to live a long time. A crummy government, well, I'm going to put Jesus Christ as president of planet Earth in downtown Jerusalem. You'll be on television every night.
Are we talking about the millennial reign of Christ here?
Yeah, from a premillennial perspective, this would be 1,000-year reign on planet Earth. And again, there are premillennialists that disagree with me, and of course there are amillennialists and postmillennialists, and we have a variety of perspectives even around this table right now on this position. But I don't see it at all as a new creation. It's a temporal situation, and I think it's kind of like a grand object lesson, where just like God says, look, I gave you this pre-flood era so you could look back and realize it's not good to live a long time on the face of the earth. It's not good to have one world government where the governmental system is at peace with itself. That's not the best thing for humanity. And even today, with that object lesson in our past history, so many people struggle with that. Well, likewise, as we raise our children, the devil made me do it. Well, what I see in this period is God locks up Satan throughout this period. So you can't blame Satan. Can't blame the Antichrist or the false prophet. They're locked up as well. You can't blame a poor economy. We're going to have a great economy. So everything that we human beings raise up as an excuse for why we sin, except for the real reason, will be removed during this period of time. So it's like God underlining for us one last time, your problem is not your environment. Your problem is not your parents or the government. Your problem is your human heart. Jeremiah 17:9 and 10. The human heart is wicked beyond our imagination, and that's where our struggle lies. The problem is so few of us believe that that's true. I think God needs to hammer that home one more time. The thing that disturbs me most about these passages, Revelation 20, at the end of this 1,000 years, God releases Satan for a brief period of time, and the majority of the children born during this period of time, who have had all these benefits, choose to rebel. Once again proving it's not the environment, it's not the fact that you didn't know that God exists, it's not the fact that your parents were so rotten in the way they brought you up. None of that's your problem. Satan made me do it. Hey, that's not it either. It's your human heart, and that's what you need deliverance from. It's our heart that needs to be redeemed.
Now, this is kind of a scenario that you've kind of come up with looking at the scriptures and in your study over many, many times of reading the Bible through.
Yeah, not even
You're not gonna
necessarily
die for
saying this is true.
Yeah,
so.
you're not going to die for this, but this is a scenario that you've come up with as a possible understanding.
Well, I would argue that for any theologian discussing eschatology, there's a compulsion upon us to take all of these problems that we see in the text and find some systematic way to integrate it so that it's all consistent, and yet the text is literal except where the context demands otherwise. And I'm not saying I've arrived there, but I'm saying, hey, I'm committed to keep moving forward to work out a systematic system. And I'll tell you this, even if I come up with one that's completely systematic, there may be others that are just as systematic and just as consistent. We're never going to have all the answers. Problems will be answered as we pursue this. That's what's fun.
Now, that's kind of answering the issue from a premillennial perspective. Real quick, I want to ask Ken to jump in here. You hold an amillennial perspective on eschatology. Why don't you give us some of your thoughts about the end, new heavens and new earth, and all of those things?
One of the things that I enjoy most about working at Reasons to Believe, and in particular Hugh Ross, is I can differ with Hugh, and he doesn't get mad, and he doesn't demand that I submit to his view. If anything, I think he actually enjoys that I differ with him because we both come away learning. And I can tell you that that's not always the case in Christian organizations. I hold a different eschatological interpretation. I think all the views of the millennium have strengths and weaknesses. I used to hold a premillennial view quite similar to Hugh's, and I think there is merit, and I respect his position. I would say, however, that I think that in an amillennial interpretation, Christ returns to earth, he resurrects and judges, and we go immediately into the eternal state. And so an amillennialist would be a person who says there is no millennial kingdom, no earthly millennial kingdom. Now, how would I deal, and how would many in the amillennial camp deal with the passage
Isaiah 11.
Isaiah 11. My interpretation of those passages is that they are pictures. This is the way somebody in the ancient world would depict peace and finality, and that's what we find in the eternal state, the total peace of the reign of God. But
you would agree it's better than what's described in Isaiah 11.
That's right.
That this is something designed to stretch us to think about how much better it could be.
That's right. That these pictures are even imperfect pictures. They're finite human beings trying to picture what that eternal state would be. I don't see anything in death before the fall that would injure that kind of idea. And I do think that when we are developing our systematic theology, as much as it's important to look at origins and destiny, that we have to be careful that we don't create a situation where we insist on areas of speculation that then cause problems, further back. I think that we should be charitable to one another about origins and destiny. Personally, I would want to fight and die for the gospel, the person of Christ, the Trinity. But the Bible speaks a great deal about origin and destiny, and we can't ignore them. And so that would be maybe a different interpretation, but in reality quite similar, that the New Jerusalem, the eternal state, as we like to speak of it, is something that is far beyond the original creation in Eden.
And not a restored Eden, but in fact, new heavens,
Right.
new earth.
Right.
Okay.